Welcome to the first episode of the second season of Native Strength. I'm your host, Hayapeisha Lee, Cherokee Blessed Woman. If you saw our first season, you know it was mostly about the Wheel of Life, the key to almost all of the lessons on the Native Strength path. This is just like a map that has a key that explains what the symbols mean. In this season, we're going to use the Wheel of Life to understand the circles of life, a spiral path that each of us travels during our lifetime. The circles of life is a traditional Native American teaching that gives insight into our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual abilities at any given time in our life. It's a guide. It helps us to see how age causes certain areas of our life to be emphasized. For example, we're generally more emotional in our youth. We're in our physical prime in our early adulthood, and as we get into our elder years, we have more wisdom than we have ever had before. Now, these basic principles just scratch the surface of this ancient teaching. This lesson goes down into much deeper levels, showing us what influences us at 9-month intervals throughout our entire life, up until the age of 108, a sacred number in many cultures. Through centuries of study, traditional medicine men and women, with the help of the Star People, charted the patterns experienced by everyone as they went through life. There are no exceptions. Men and women, the able-bodied and the disabled, are all influenced in the same manner. There are many books on childhood development, but few people realize that we don't stop growing and developing simply by virtue of having reached adulthood. We continue to learn, mature, and develop until the day we die. In fact, some of our most advanced growth takes place in our elder years. Change is the only constant in the universe. Life is like a spiral. Our progression is like the shell of a nautilus. As we go around progressing with each evolution, we revisit the same directions around the wheel over and over again. We may be in the east, but we are one level above where we were on our last time around, more advanced by one revolution. If we've learned our lesson, we'll advance to the next stage when we revisit that direction. If not, we'll find ourselves confronted with a situation similar to the last time and a fresh opportunity to make a better choice. This will continue to happen to us in various ways until we finally learn our lesson. If you've ever wondered why certain things keep happening to you or why people keep treating you the way they do, it may be that the universe is trying to teach you the best way to handle the problem. Once you learn the lesson, it probably won't keep popping up. The Wheel of Life is used as a key to lay on top of the circle of life. You'll see what I mean as we go along. Every 9 months, we change our direction, our detailed focus on the Wheel of Life. Every 3 years, we complete a revolution around the Wheel of Life. Now, I realize that this can be quite confusing, but with the help of circles and wheels, I'll make it easier to understand. This is the basic medicine wheel. The Wheel of Life is the key to the Circles of Life teaching. It shows the attributes of the 8 directions. The Circle of Life is the map, and the Wheel of Life is the key. It's laid on each of the circles. The small circles only use the 4 cardinal directions, but the entire teaching as a whole uses all 8. There are 4 big circles in each of the cardinal directions. The attributes of the 4 directions apply to these circles, so the big circle of the South is primarily about perspective, emotions, trust, innocence, and the arts. The big circle of the West is all about our physical body, our physical world, intuition, imagination, and introspection. The big circle of the North is concerned with intent, knowledge, and wisdom, while the big circle of the East is primarily about self-growth, enlightenment, and illumination. For more information about the meaning of all 8 directions, check out the first season of Native Strength. We travel on these big circles throughout our life, starting in the South and going clockwise. But we also travel around 8 smaller circles around the outside of these big circles. We start each of the big circles in a smaller circle that sits inside the very center of the larger one. The numbers represent our ages in years and months. The Circle of Life lesson tells us where we are on the wheel of life based on our age. So, if we're at an age that puts us in the East, then we're focusing on our personal growth, spirituality, and our enlightenment. We may be revisiting old spiritual issues that were not quite resolved, or learning new things. This is the direction where we become more enlightened. We will evolve at a faster pace than if we were focusing on our spirituality when we are at an age that puts us in the West, the place of the physical body, introspection, and intuition, for example. We're able to grow and advance faster when we work in the area of our life that we're naturally facing. Now, this is like saying that it's easier to learn to swim when you have a pool and it's summertime, or that it's easier to learn to ski in the winter when there's snow. Now, sure, there are indoor pools and special equipment built to teach you how to ski inside and without snow. It's just that it's easier to learn these things under natural conditions. It's the same way when trying to advance in life. So it's easier to address and change certain aspects of our life when we're in the direction on the circle of life that corresponds with that aspect. For example, it's easier to make large advancements in our physical world when we're on the big West Circle. This is when we're roughly between the ages of 27 and 54. Now, before that, we're on the big South Circle, and we really aren't in charge of our own physical world for the large portion of that time. After the big West is the big North, where we're older and physically declining. There are smaller circles we travel around as we progress on these big circles, and each of these smaller circles has a West, and there's one small circle entirely devoted to the West as well. So there will be many times that we revisit the West and the direction of the physical body, introspection, imagination, and intuition. Before we're born, though, we're on the other side. This is the same place we go after our previous life is over. Some call this death. In Native American tradition, we see ourselves as separated from our departed loved ones by a very thin veil. We, the living, are on this side of that veil. Our dead loved ones, or those yet to be born, are on the other side. It's said that there is no death, only a change in worlds. Many people accept reincarnation to be a fact. Dr. Jim Tucker at the University of Virginia has studied over 2,500 children who had memories of past lives. These children had memories that included historical facts and people and family members from their past life that could be found in records and photos. Many cases were verified by documents that proved that what the children were remembering actually took place. Now, as you probably know, through the centuries, different rulers have changed parts of the Bible. In the year 553, at the Second Council of Constantinople, reincarnation was officially removed from the Christian doctrine. Many traditional natives of North and South America, Hawaii, and Australia believe in reincarnation as well. I was taught that during the time in between our lives, we reflect on what we've done while in the physical world. We process what we've learned, reflect on the mistakes we made, and the events of our most recent life. We examine our behavior to gain a clearer perspective. We can see where we went wrong, where we were able to correct our mistakes, and where we chose to blame others and remain stagnant in our growth. Once we've thoroughly examined our life and put it in perspective with our other past lives, we're able to see our soul holistically. We can see all the lessons we've learned and how far we have yet to go in our evolutionary process. Now, many people try to remember their past life when much more could be learned by remembering what they planned for this life while they were on the other side. When we're in physical form, we don't have the benefit of vision that extends over many lifetimes. It's senseless to remember another life that only provides the same limited view we have in our present physical form. Our time would be better spent trying to examine the meaning and purpose of all the lives we've lived. If we can see what we're supposed to be learning in this lifetime before it's over, we can save ourselves countless years on the evolutionary wheel. When we study our lives in detail, we begin to get a picture of what our soul is still lacking. Our goal is perfection so that we can become one with the Creator. Now, this isn't done in a dozen lifetimes, but over many thousands of years. We can see just how far we are from perfection when we look at our actions when we're in physical form. We learn from what we've experienced in life while on the other side. We can't change our karma unless we're in physical form, which constitutes another large part of the evolutionary process. When we hurt others, we incur a debt or karma. To pay off that debt, we must be in the physical form. We're often called to a new life where we're able to pay off that karma to the souls we've wronged in a previous life. Now, I was taught that the soul chooses when and where it will be reborn. I struggled with this for many years. I couldn't comprehend why I would have chosen the family I did, the city and state, the era, and the circumstances surrounding my birth. It simply defied logic. But as I've grown older and practiced communicating with my inner elders more extensively, I've begun to see why I made those choices. It was to give me an opportunity to learn the lessons my soul needed in order to advance on its journey. There were people in this family whose souls I had previously encountered in others' lives, and there was karma to be worked out with these individuals. With the clear vision I had on the other side, I saw that this environment would provide me with the opportunities my soul needed. It's not about being born at the right time for your talents or gifts to be recognized properly, or even for your abilities to be needed by the world at that time. It's solely about your soul's evolutionary development on the road to enlightenment. Right before we're born, the angel of forgetfulness touches us, and we forget all we've learned on the other side. Now, obviously, this doesn't always completely erase our memories of past lives or even our time on the other side. It is possible to remember our previous times in physical form through hypnosis or meditation, but as I've already stated, it's much more valuable to remember the time we've spent examining our soul and its progression. This can also be done with the help of hypnosis, meditation, or even lucid or controlled dreaming. Before you go to bed, take some time to meditate on one question you specifically want to learn. It can be about your soul's evolution, a troubling time you're having now, or something that happened in the past. State your question as simply as you can and repeat it to yourself over and over until you fall asleep. Our subconscious talks to us through our dreams. Make sure to keep something to write on next to your bed. Now, it usually takes time to program your mind to remember your dreams. One of the best ways to help is with smudge. Science is just now discovering what indigenous people have known for centuries about the calming and antibiotic properties of sage, cedar, lavender, eucalyptus, and other plants used to purify the air and our bodies. Your sense of smell is located closest to the place in your brain where your memories are stored. If you tell yourself when you smudge that you'll remember your dreams, you'll program your mind. Once you can consistently remember your dreams, you've got a good channel of communication going with your subconscious. But there are ways to access the same information in your waking state with the help of the circles of life. So let's jump in. There are 4 big circles. We begin life in the Big South Circle, and we'll be here until we're 27 years old. This is not only the place of perspective, trust, and innocence, but also art, music, songs, dance, and our own inner children personas. The entire time we're on the Big South Circle, all of our thoughts and actions are framed in the aspects of the South. We're learning to experience beauty in the world and discover hope. It's during our time in the Big South Circle that the seed of our life's purpose is found. This is our sacred dream. What our soul planned for our life while we're on the other side, and how we are going to see it through. Now, if we don't find our sacred dream, we become depressed. If we find our dream, but are taught by our caregivers that it's not an option, we'll be even more depressed. We feel like the one thing that makes us happy, our purpose in life, is unacceptable. Then we feel like we're not worthy of love. Our life can get complicated very quickly. We begin each big circle in the center. The small center circle of any big circle is where the biggest changes in life can happen. We begin the center small circle in the south at the age of 9 months. Before 9 months, we're simply recovering from the birth process and getting used to the physical world. It's around the age of 9 months that we first begin to explore the direction of the South on the Big South Circle. At this stage, we're beginning to understand that we're separate from our caregivers and our environment, and we get our first glimpse of perspective. We learn what no means. We see that we don't always get our way. We become attached to our primary caregivers for our physical needs, but it's now that we develop a deep love of these people. We trust them and innocently believe that they can do no wrong. It's inconceivable that these loving caregivers could ever cause harm or be anything other than all-powerful. A mind at this age can't really process such a concept. And that's why child abuse at this age is so devastating. As we continue to revisit the past, it can bring up painful memories, and this can re-traumatize us. So I want to discuss some tools. When we get stressed and emotional, whether it's because we're thinking about the painful past or a problem that just happened in the here and now, it's easy to let our breathing get out of control. We may find ourselves not taking the time to exhale all the way, and we may start to breathe faster. This can even lead to a panic attack. When we're born, we have a static assemblage point, or SAP, at our navel. In the first 3 years of life, the static assemblage point begins to move up the center of our body in front of our spine and over until it's positioned near our heart. The static assemblage point is like a radio or TV antenna that's tuned to a particular station. It determines how we perceive reality based on what position it's in. It's like we can only pick up certain stations when our SAP is over our heart because we're working with our raw emotions. When the SAP is centered in the navel, we feel connected to the Great Spirit and all of creation. We're enlightened and full of unconditional love. When it's over our heart, we're controlled by our emotions, and that's when we get overwhelmed and can find it hard to breathe and rise above our feelings. It is possible to shift the SAP back to the center of our body and back down to the navel. There are several ways to do it, but when we're in the middle of a stressful situation, we use a technique called Warrior Presents Fire. You imagine the SAP, a white light in your body, and you use your mind and your breath to move it over to your spine and down to your navel. It helps to hold your hands in this position over your solar plexus and imagine fire shooting out of your index fingers. The fire is your anger, frustration, and fear, and any other emotion you want to let go of. When you inhale, breathe in through your belly button. The object is to try not to let your shoulders move. Instead, your stomach should fill up. You see the difference? Stressed. Warrior Presents Fire. Breathe in pure white light, full of love and positive energy from the Creator through your navel, and exhale all of the things that are causing you pain through your index fingers. Do you see how your hands are protecting the source of your positive energy? Remember now, we're not pointing our negative energy at anyone or anything. We're just getting rid of it. As you revisit memories of the past that may cause you pain, this is how to not be affected by the emotions. Doing the Warrior Presents Fire will put you back in control. Keep reminding yourself that you're not in the past any longer. The situation has changed. You've survived. And you're thriving now. Some people have had such a traumatic past that simple breathing exercises may not be enough. Modern psychology might treat these people with drugs like Xanax. These can have serious side effects and can numb us to problems to the point where we allow people to walk all over us. Remember, pain is our first teacher. It teaches us that something is wrong. The problem with most drugs like this is that they don't work just when you need them. These drugs stay in the system for hours and days later. People all over the world have used cannabis for centuries to calm their nerves when things got too out of hand. Almost all of our modern medicines come from plants. Using cannabis can calm you almost instantly, doesn't have any debilitating side effects, and you can function normally again in a matter of a couple of hours. At 1 year and 6 months, we're facing the west in the small center wheel of the big south wheel. So our focus primarily is concerned with exploring the physical abilities of our new body and our environment. We imagine ourselves doing the things we see other people doing, and so we push the limits and boundaries of our bodies. We may get scraped and bruised, but this is how we learn. If our caregivers encourage us to explore and aren't overly concerned about every little bump, we learn that it's okay to make mistakes, that we'll survive and we'll learn from them. If our caregivers freak out every time we fall down and come running to our rescue, they might send the message that we do dangerous things. Their behavior may teach us that the world is a dangerous place and that we can't be trusted to explore it safely on our own. Remember that we begin each of the big circles in the center. And this center, small circle, has the greatest influence in our life. So what we learn here will be difficult to change later in life. If we've learned that we can't be trusted to explore the world on our own, and that every little bump is a catastrophe, we may grow up to be afraid of exploring new things. How do we change this? By talking to the inner personas, and particularly your inner elders. They have to take the place of your caregivers. Now, I use the term caregivers because not all of us had parents. If you had a mom and dad, great. Think of them when I say caregivers. But if you were raised by someone else like I was, think of the people who took care of you and did their best to love you. No one on earth is perfect. But our inner elders are. Now we can go back and let our inner elders show us things in a new light. Keep in mind that we move in a continuous flow around the circles. We don't stop or slow our pace at any particular point. Our movement is steady. The points on the circle and the corresponding ages are guideposts, mile markers to help you keep track of your progress. When we're halfway between two directions on the wheel, we're being equally influenced by both directions. Now, at 2 years and 3 months, we're feeling like we have a bit of knowledge and wisdom. We have learned things and we know it. Now, if you've ever been around a 2-year-old, you know what I mean. We're developing a mind of our own, and our intentions may not match with those of our caregivers. At the age of 3, we find ourselves facing the direction of an enlightenment. We're learning empathy and compassion. We're using what we've learned and applying reason to act compassionately. From 3 years and 3 years and 9 months, we travel from one small circle to the next. Now, as we travel, we're on an unstructured course. We have no detailed focus, but our larger focus is still the big circle we're on. We're moving to the small southeast circle. Our focus on the southeast circle will be our attitude and approach. We'll be interpreting our surroundings and the activities of others and developing our strategy toward life. We arrive on the small southeast circle at 3 years and 9 months, and that's where we'll pick things up next time. Our childhood has set the stage for our life, but it isn't exactly written in stone. We can rewrite our past so that we aren't the victim, but the victor. After all, if you're watching this, you obviously survived and made it this far. Ay ay ya pa ya 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 oh ya ya ay ya ya pa ya 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 oh ya ya ay ya ya pa ya 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 oh ya ya ay ya ya pa ya 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 oh ya ya sanga e ya oh ni wa chi oh wa ni wa chi e na e